Hey guys, welcome. Today I want to talk to us about something that I think it's pretty important, and I hope the ideas I'll share with you today add some value to you, add some value to your business, and you are able to pick something that makes you do better in life and also makes you do better in business. Today, one of the things I want to talk about is the power of habits, right? And how your habits can generally, to a large extent, determine the level of success you have in life or if you fail, right? There's a typical saying that success is starting 1,000 times. But how do you get to start 1,000 times, right? If you're discouraged, how do you get to start 1,000 times? If you don't have the belief that you can do it. It's just like if you look at my previous post where I talked about how we are always right as humans, right? If you say I can make it, you would make it. If you say I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail. So, and I share with us a couple of ingredients that can help you succeed, that can help you, that enablers, that if you put them together, then you can actually have what we call predictable success. So you could go back, just check the previous posts. You should be able to see that post. Now, the question is, how do you start 1,000 times? So let's take the example of Michael Faraday, right? Michael Faraday, we're told, the inventor of the electric bulb, tried about 1,000 times. And I think in the 1,001st attempt, he got it right. The question is, what keeps him going? Or what kept him going per se, right? Why was he so persistent at carrying out those experiments? Do you know what it means to carry out an experiment 1,000 times? So for example, let's take a calendar year, right? If he did an experiment each day, right? That means it took him about 3 years, thereabout. It's on the third year that he made the eventual breakthrough. That's enormous. How many of us can go on, in quote, failing for 3 straight years without hitting the milestone we want to hit? Some of us, we start out in business, we start out on a venture, and at the first sign of failure or at the first sign of disappointment, we pack up. Some of us are able to persist 3 months, 6 months, a year, and we say, no, this is not for me. There are people that have decided to say, in short, business is not for me. Yes, I agree. Not everybody has to be an active entrepreneur, but I think our habits translate into different areas of life. So if you meet someone that is very resilient in life, there's a lot of chance that if that person goes into business, that person is also going to be very resilient when it comes to business, right? So how does the habits we've cultivated over time in our life, how does it come to play when it comes to our businesses? That's one of the things I want to share with us. Remember that quote I said, right? The success is it's starting 1,000 times. Starting 1,000 times doesn't mean you have to fail 1,000 times. The fact is, when you wake up each morning, you're taking imperfect steps to perfect your process towards success. So I put down a few pointers for us, but there's something fascinating that Vince Lombardi said. He says, winning is a habit, and unfortunately, so also is failing. So what that means is, if the habits that characterize your life are those that have always caused you to fall short of the bar you set for yourself, then the chances are that is going to be, that might be something that happens continuously in your life. I'm not saying that's what would always happen, but it's going to be a recurring factor. And it means you have to take a second look to say, what am I doing right? Or what are those things I'm doing that is making me always fall short of the bar, of the targets that I set for myself, right? A few things for us to note, right, is that number one, as humans, we are all creatures of habits, right? The sum of our life is basically, the outcomes of our life is basically the sum total of the habits that we've developed over time. The habits we picked over time, right from childhood to when we became teenagers, to when we became young adults, to our main adult life, mid adult life, and as we go on. Our lives is the totality of our life, the outcome of our life is simply the sum total of the habits that we've picked up along the way. And as humans, right, we are simply creatures of habit. What is habit, by the way, someone will ask? Habit is simply the things we do over and over again, whether they be positive or they be negative, right? Negative or positive, those things we continue to do repeatedly is what we refer to as habits. Now, one thing we should know is, just like there are several habits that when put together can help us to be successful, we also need to understand that failure in life or in business is also the product of habits, right? So for example, let's say in school, right? In school, you never get to study. You refuse to study all the time. And because you refuse to study, you are always at the bottom of your class. The chances will be that later on in life, the diligence required for you to be successful in other aspects of life, you might not put that in. Not the word I use, you might not put that in. And if you don't put in the required work and diligence for success, it doesn't matter whether it's your books or it's projects in the workplace, right? Or it's further learning or higher education, the chances are that you would not put the required work. And if you fail to put the required work, the outcome will be the same. Just like you were at the bottom of the class in college, because you refuse to put in the work, you could be at the bottom in your organization if you also fail to put in the work. Note that I cited this example stating that you refuse to put in the work. You've created a habit where you do not put in the work. I'm not looking at other factors that might contribute, but I'm picking at the sole factor that you have refused to put in the required work. You became lazy, you did not put in the required work. So what happens? That cycle continues. And if you must succeed, we must break that cycle and replace that cycle with much more productive habits. Now, talking about habits, I've already said that habits basically determine the trajectories that our life take. And there are a couple of habits that you would see in people that succeed. One of the great books I loved so much is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. If you've never read that book, I would advise you to go read it. And what I love about what Stephen Covey did with that book is he didn't just talked about what you need to do every day. He basically broke the habits into things that you need to do internally to yourself, right? And then things that you need to do in a relation with people. So habits is not only the things you do in your private or you do with yourself. It's also what you do in relation to people. You understand? So let's say you're someone that never keeps to an appointment. That's in relation to people, right? That becomes a habit. So anytime you give someone an appointment, they would naturally, because they know that you never keep to an appointment, they would not take your time in seriously, right? That you do in relation to people, because that's an external habit. And that external habit could be from an habit you've generated with yourself, that you are always inconsistent. And because, for example, you are inconsistent and indecisive, what that means is the things you need to do as a person, you do not get to do them. So that spills out into your relationship with other people. So for you to succeed, we need to break that cycle. Another thing to note, number 3, is that unfortunately, the society we live in today does not reward the incubation period for the right kind of habits, right? So nowadays, there's a principle that has been discussed severally when it comes to talking about habits, right? They said, so habit is simply repeated action. And one of the principles that has been put out there is the principle of, they call it 2190, right? That if you can repeatedly do something for 21 days, it becomes a habit. And if you can continue to do that thing for 90 days at a stretch, it becomes a lifestyle. And it's also the same thing in the reverse. If you want to undo a particular habit, what you have to do is not necessarily stop, but actually replace that habit with a productive habit for 21 days, right? And it becomes part of you. And then if you can continue for 90 days, it becomes a lifestyle, right? So for example, let's say I want to lose weight, right? And I've identified that part of the reason I'm probably overweight or obese is because I eat junk. So now my solution would be stop eating junk. But don't just stop eating junk, replace my junk meal with healthy meals for the next 21 days non-stop. So I don't eat junk, but I have a replacement, healthy meals for 21 days. Now that becomes a habit. I continue for up to 90 days. That becomes a lifestyle. However, the world we live in today is a world of instant gratification. So most of the time, the society today does not see your incubation period, right? Everything we want is instant noodles, instant meals, instant deliveries, everything instant. So what also happens is the incubation period required for success, most of the time we want to truncate it because we're looking for instant gratification. And put this in the context of businesses, here's what happens. We have lots of businesses today that want to be successful overnight. They want to be listed in Forbes overnight. They want to become unicorns overnight. And what happens with startups, most of the some startups that fail, is instead of waiting for the incubation period to become successful, what happens is they cut corners. They try to shunt the process. And in trying to shunt the process, sometimes shunting the process can be scaling too fast, right? And because they try to shunt the process to get to their destination, eventually they collapse. So there are lots of businesses that died prematurely, not because the concepts were not good, not because the plans were not good, not because the blueprints were not good, not because finances were not provided, but because they tried to shunt the process because of instant gratification, because they want vanity metrics. So what happens is, at the end of the day, they collapse. Now, note, I'm not saying this is the only reason why some of these startups collapse. That's not the only reason. But this is a huge contributing factor for many startups today. And that's because our society does not, I repeat, does not reward the incubation period for success. So, for example, I talked about the process of forming an habit. Note that by the time you start talking about the business, your incubation period obviously will not be 21 days, right? There are businesses where the incubation period is as much as 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. When I started one of my consultancy businesses, I remember the consultant told me that I might not be profitable for the next 2 to 3 years. It looked like he practically was prophesying doom for my business. But over time, I got to understand the industry I was in required it's practically an industry that requires a high level of skill and a high level of trust. So for businesses to trust you and hire you, they need to have seen that you are capable of delivering on the outcomes, and you need to show it in the marketplace, and that would take time. So he was right. It took a bit of time, But by the time we turned the corner, it became easy for us. We became profitable, and that was good for our business. So society does not congratulate us on the incubation period. What society wants to see is you start, and then they see the dollar raining down. And that is not how life works, right? That's not how life works. Number 4, the right habits will help you mature. Now, there's nurture to maturity. Nurture to maturity. Now, in between is the incubation period I talked about. So, for example, let's look at a business owner, right? I want to start a business. And if I roll back, that's why as a business coach, right? When I take classes and I get to teach you about starting a business, we don't jump to starting a business. We first of all have to deal with things like this. These are the pitfalls. We have to deal with things like this. So let's say you're in a class I'm teaching as your business coach, right? And by the way, I teach classes for entrepreneurs that want to become, from employees that want to become entrepreneurs. I teach classes if you're looking to reinvent your business, if you're trying to grow your business or scale your business. I teach classes in those, and I also provide coaching and mentoring. I've been doing this. I launched my business this year. By December thereabout, it will be about 10 years I launched my first business. So I'm experienced in this. I'm not speaking just because I read something from a book. I'm actually speaking from my own experience a lot. Yes, I did research, I read, but these are things I've experienced also. So for a business owner, right, you want to start a business, there's an incubation period. So what are you going to do? You have to learn the tenets of the business. So for example, it starts from ideation, right? You have to look at your idea. Is your idea viable? Is it marketable? Is there a market base for it? Is there a customer base for it? I mean, what's the market look like? What's the market segmentation? Who are those currently doing what you do? What's the competition? What are they doing? What are they getting right? What are they getting wrong? How are you going to enter the business? Right? At what level do you want to penetrate the market? What market share do you intend to capture? What products are you going to launch? How are you going to launch your product? What's going to be your marketing strategy? Right? What's going to be your marketing strategy? How are you going to grow the business? How do you scale it? What's the overall vision for the business, right? Are you building a business that will last 100 years, 1,000 years, or are you building a business that you would like to sell in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years? So what's your vision for the business? These are practical things that happen at the beginning stages of business. Now, you're just scripting this down. Now, when you eventually get to launch the business, you have to keep going back and forth, looking at your books. Am I meeting my target? Am I meeting my sales target? Based on what I projected in the book, is the market responding the way I thought it would respond? What can I do differently? What can I change? So you see, these all take time to nurture. But if you want to mature, you must be resilient. You must go through the process to get to the point of maturity. Right? Just like I would say, right? A baby cannot be conceived and born in a single day. So also, your business cannot start and thrive in a single day. It requires a period of maturity. And there are habits that you must develop over time to get you there. Right? So, and just like a baby cannot be conceived and born on the same day, people do not lose weight overnight, for example. I know there are all kinds of herbs out there that people drink now, but you don't lose weight overnight. It takes time, right? So also, success does not happen overnight. Okay? Success does not happen overnight. It requires work. It requires time. It requires effort. It requires habits like resilience. It requires commitment, right? And let me use biblical terms. It requires long suffering. Biblical terms, I say. It requires life. So, for example, if you want to lose weight, it also requires time, right? I was just watching a video of someone today that said, hey, she was over 100 kg and her target was to get down to 70s. It took her 7 whole months. Some people would think that within 2 months they should achieve it. It took her 7 whole months to lose 30 kg. Now, if I put that on, that's an average of probably 4 kg per month. But consistency over time got her to her target. And consistency keeps her at her targets. So you might develop the habits that get you to succeed, but you also require habits that gets you, that helps you stay successful when you eventually get there, right? I know we derive inspiration and motivation from people. We learn every day. According to one of my coaches mentioned, says motivation is what gets you started, but habits is what keeps you going. Now, how do I tie this together? Sometimes we get excited, we get motivated about the ideas we have, about the visions we have, and we get started. But because we don't have the staying power, when obstacles come, what happens is we collapse, we capitulate. So what is my advice today? Well, Durant says we are what we repeatedly do. That excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. You want to succeed in business, you want to succeed in life, develop the habits for success. Now, I'm not going to catalog all those habits in this video. I'm going to make a separate video where I put together for you the habits that make for success. But if you want to start, you can start by reading Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You're going to find that extremely useful. And just like habits take time to form, businesses require incubation period before they start producing the results you want. And don't think your business is going to be separate from you. Basically, your business is a reflection, it's an extension of who you are as an individual. So what that means is, if you are an impatient, your staying power in business is going to also become small and short. And at some point, you're just going to pack it up because you can't continue anymore. So you would need to be resilient. You would need to be diligent. You need to be able to study, seek knowledge, and develop go through the incubation period, and then you can reap the outcomes. Now, one thing you should note is that you have to start every day, right? You have to start every day. Everything is not going to be synced in one day for you. You have to start taking imperfect steps toward perfection every single day. You have to wake up every single day. You have to be persistent every single day. You have to persevere every single day. You have to be committed every single day. You have to believe every single day. And you have to execute on your actions, on your beliefs, on your plans every single day. Like I said at the beginning, success is not a sprint. Success is a marathon. The question is, are you ready for success? If this adds value to you, please feel free to share, save, and like, comment, and also make sure you follow my page. Thank you.